Good morning, Carly and Todd. The president is making a direct threat to state and local officials, saying he will invoke the Insurrection Act if they don't crack down on the protesters attacking ICE. The Insurrection Act will allow the president to deploy federal troops or federalize the National Guard to suppress rebellion or domestic violence. It was last invoked by former President George H.W. Bush in 1992 during the Los Angeles riots. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is pleading with the president to tamp down the rhetoric, saying, "Let's turn the temperature down. Stop this campaign of retribution. This is not who we are." And an appeal to Minnesotans, I know this is scary. We must speak out loudly, urgently, but also peacefully. We cannot fan the flames of chaos. That's what he wants. But administration officials are not moved.
I said, sir, listen, Tim, you know the situation, what's going on. We are enforcing federal law. If you don't like the laws, go change them, but don't do it by giving place to these protesters and rioters that are perpetuating violence. And I said, you have my personal cell phone. You call me. If you need me, you call me. We will be there to help back you up, but protect your city, protect your state.
A White House spokesperson says Tim Walz, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, and Democrat leaders in Minnesota have done nothing but turn up the temperature, smear heroic ICE officers, and incite violence against them, all in defense of criminal illegal aliens. The Trump administration will protect the American people and enforce the law without apology. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem says there are no plans to pull agents out of Minnesota.
All right. Oh, man. Welcome back. We took a red eye last night into Tampa from California. Escaping California is exactly what we have just done. And we returned to a freezing cold Tampa. It was very, very cold here. I couldn't believe it when I walked off of the plane. It was like 5 a.m. And it was like we were in Canada. We conquered Canada. This is what it's going to feel like when we get Greenland. We would swap California for Greenland in a second, ladies and gentlemen. So bear with us today as we talk through what we learned and what we are building out in California, because everything will change with our expose on the homeless industrial complex superstructure that runs the state. It has been a wild ride, and ladies and gentlemen, let's freaking go. Today is Friday, January 16th, 2026. What we found in California was completely insane, and we're going to show you some of it, and some of it we are building out. This is going to be a massive investigation. And ladies and gentlemen, we have certainly blown the lid off of what I think is possibly the biggest fraud on earth. Trump also gets the Nobel Prize and accepted the Nobel Prize yesterday from a Venezuelan, of all people. Representative Andy Ogles joins the program. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Ladies and gentlemen, we made a few headlines last week, and this week, I guess, last couple of days. And why don't we I'll jump right into it. Benny Johnson hits LA and promises to blow the lid off of the biggest fraud on earth. The biggest fraud on earth, I mean, I guess you could technically argue, is the way that California manages their state. And I just want to take a moment here and say something that I think might shock all of you. I like California. I like California. I was born in California, right? So, like, yeah, I know. I didn't live there for long, but my parents were living in LA when myself, my sister, and my brother were born. And it was actually because of LA and the fires that happened. No, not the Palisades fires. The fires from the Rodney King riots, which you could say like sort of the precursor to a George Floyd, DEI, race riots situation that caused our family to say, this is too unstable out here. Things are just not being managed and run in a way that is going to represent safety for our family. And so my parents moved us to Iowa, which is where my father was from. But I have always had near and dear to my heart California. I've traveled back there many times. I have, as you have, either from afar or near, watched the state consistently get worse over time. You've watched the state atrophy and slowly but surely collapse into madness. I guess you could see, I mean, here, there you go. These are the Rodney King riots. We were living in Downey, California. Downey, California is right there in Los Angeles, one of those, working class, poorer neighborhoods of Los Angeles, where you could see the fires and hear the cop cars and the wails of the sirens. And very much, if you have a bunch of little children, say, I'm getting the hell out of here. And that is thankfully what my parents did. But this is something that has remained critical and a cornerstone memory of mine, because you could, I guess, argue this was, again, an appetizer for what was about to happen to the entire nation, as the insanity, chaos, bloodthirstiness of the left and the instability of the societies that they create are now metastasizing in Minnesota, throughout cities all in America. Now it's just called riot season, right? And you just expect Democrats to do this. It was shocking at the time. And it's something that has always bothered me, that families have to do this. Now, I had to do this with my family. I'm not trying to be like totally self-referential and all this, but I did want to explain sort of my miniature obsession with California because, well, I mean, I know how destabilizing this is for families, and millions and millions and millions of families have had to move. I had to move during COVID because they were doing the same thing to DC, damn it. I was living in DC. There were riots every single night. They were burning down blocks. They were attacking police officers. They were attacking civilians and citizens. And I had a little kid, and I said, to hell with this place. I'm getting out. And I hate that people have to do that in America. You shouldn't have to do that in the first world. You shouldn't have to do that in a functional country. Things should be stable and clean and orderly, and the government should protect you. But in places like California, the government has failed. And this is the major takeaway. And this is why we're going to go so hard at California. California is the spawning center of left-wing power because there's so much money there. At least there used to be so much money there. Still a lot of cash there to be looted. But it's fleeing the state quickly. Nonetheless, the Pelosi's, Kamala, Gavin, who's going to certainly run in 2028, like that's a guarantee. Like we got multiple phone calls from very high level people while out there. That's a guarantee that is going to happen. You might as well take a bite out of crime now, right? You might as well go straight to the heart of darkness. Listen, Tim Walz's career is over, and I'm all for what's happening in Minnesota. I think it's great. I love the fact that we can go and do little exposés on AOC and Jasmine Crockett. Is AOC and Jasmine Crockett the future of the Democrat Party? We can hope and pray. But I think strategically, for at least the next couple of cycles, the epicenter of power of the Democrat Party lies squarely on the state of California. That's where the fundraising is, and that's where the superstructures are. This is obviously where the criminal cartels have been built in order to export all of that stolen money, the fraudulent money from these criminal enterprises that they run in that state, defrauding their taxpayers and us, something I'm going to get into it here in just a second. This is where it's all headquartered. Every Democrat donor lives in California. Every Democrat that wants to run for president or be president has to go to California. Remember that humiliating last fundraiser for Joe Biden, where Barack Obama had to walk him off stage as he wobbled and wasn't even sure where he was. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel who was hosting that, right? Humiliatingly. Like you have to just accept that California is the center of the world when it comes to the Democrat Party. And so you have to go hard at it, and you have to use it as an example of what they wish to do to the whole country. And this is why it is such an abject metaphor. Because, listen, Minnesota is not going to become the rest of the country. Minnesota is not the power center for the left. And neither is Massachusetts, and neither is Connecticut, or these other, third or fourth tier states. It is California. And why is California such an apt metaphor? Because California should be the greatest state in the country. California has the most natural resources, is so gifted in beauty, is so rich in its God-given gifts, and in its creative capacity. There was a time in history not too long ago where if you wanted to be anything, you had to move to California. If you wanted to be in the movies or in the media business, in the tech space, if you wanted to be in the entrepreneurial space, if you wanted to be in the space, in the space race, you had to go to California. If you wanted to be somebody who built things, created things, or explored things, you went to California. It was really the American dream personified, perhaps reaching a zenith with Ronald Reagan, who unfortunately married a liberal, and that destroyed his legacy. It's a fact, but we don't have time to get into all of it. And so what happened? Like between the California golden age, which was really not that long ago, and now, why are so many millions of families, including mine, with my parents when I was a little kid, barely out of diapers, why are those families having to flee California? And that continues, of course, to today. And how do we fix this great state? Because I don't want to leave my fellow Americans behind. The left shouldn't have a right to go and destroy things that are so God-given, gifted, and beautiful. And they have, man. I mean, we were just in the Palisades. They have just destroyed California. And so we want to uncover it. And I think that sort of the too long didn't read version of this is pretty simple. That there's so much money and there's so much profitability in the state. There's so much richness in California that it was ripe to be looted by an immoral criminal class. And that is exactly what was created with the Newsoms, the Harrises, with the Gettys, and with the Pelosi's, and the cartel of families that decided that they were going to take over California and just suck the place dry. And that is precisely what's happened. And that criminal cartel runs it to this day. It is a for-profit enterprise existing entirely off of tax dollars, both federal and state and local. And that's what I think is critical, because California, you have this impression on the right where you can just glaze your eyes over and say, well, that's just like a left-wing S-hole. Let's just let them light their money on fire. Who cares? They're a bunch of libs on the left coast. It's not the case. California spends billions and billions of federal dollars given to them by the Trump administration. Those billions of federal dollars, well, they're getting stolen too. And those are dollars straight out of your pocket. Those are dollars straight out of our economy. And we need to know. And that's why we went. So, I mean, it was written up. We had a lot of fun while we were out there. And let me just hit sort of the top line of what we found. And we'll then work backwards into how much fun we had ratioing Gavin Newsom on a nearly second-by-second basis while we were out there. What we found was a criminal pattern of misuse, not just misuse, but straight up illegal use of federal dollars and state dollars that we believe should result in massive federal investigations and should absolutely also result in major defunding of California programs out of the inability of them to spend their money wisely or legally. And that's what we believe. That's what we believe we found. We're still researching and investigating right now, but we have a lot of whistleblowers at our back. We targeted the homeless industrial complex, which is, of course, a multi-billion-dollar complex in California to solve the problem of homelessness. But what did we see every single second that we were out there. Every single underpass, every bridge that we drove under, Klein, every single time we went down any road in California, you saw a tent, you saw a lean-to, you saw a homeless person, you saw a shopping cart, campers, filth, destruction, street corners that look worse than the third world. Because at least in the third world, they're not stupid enough to give their citizens who are already drug addicted a bunch of free drugs. And that's where the question really comes in. Like, wait a second. If you're trying to solve homelessness, why are you giving them free drugs? Why are you giving them free alcohol? Why are you giving them tents? Why are you allowing them to sleep out in the open like this? Why does this exist? Why, like, we got a parking ticket for being 1 minute late on a meter, yet people are able to live in campers for 30 years on the street, which is, of course, totally illegal. LAPD told us it was totally illegal. This is two different forms of justice. They're allowing this to happen. Not only that, they're encouraging it to happen. So you need to ask the question, like, why? Because nobody likes this. Nobody wants this. There has to be a reason. That reason is the profit. There's a lot of profit to be made in the nonprofit industry. And if you have something as sickening and as blighty and as repulsive and dangerous as homeless vagrants outside of your doorstep, outside of your business, boy, you can actually get the taxpayers to cough up a lot of money. You could loot a lot of money out of the treasury to solve that problem. Oh, and solve it they have. Have they ever figured out how to maximize the homeless problem without ever fixing a damn thing? So no, nothing was fixed. Yes, an obscene amount of federal dollars get spent on this problem that comes directly out of your treasury and your future. And so it's something that we all have to fight against. And it's, I think, a very worthwhile investigation based on purely the scale. And I just want to say, like, the scale of this is like 10,000 Somali daycares in Minnesota. You know, because those daycares, sure, I mean, listen, they're looting too. $1 million, $1.3 million. I mean, that's crazy, right? That's awful. But the scale, here we're talking hundreds of millions per organization. And then you multiply that times thousands of organizations, you're talking billions of dollars. And known criminality, proven criminality, indictable or have been indicted criminality out in the open, totally visible for everybody to see if you just started looking. And so that's what we did. We started looking. And you wouldn't believe the number of whistleblowers that came to us and that told us from the inside what's going on. And so, man, it is going to be a wild ride. So get ready, buckle up, be patient with us as we make sure that we get this investigation right. But a heartfelt thank you to this show, to you for helping us by watching and supporting and ensuring that we have the capacity and the energy in the tank to do an investigation like this, because it takes a lot of doing and it's expensive, you know, and it takes a lot of time and resources. And that's a huge shout out to everybody who supports Nick Shirley and Nick Sotor. In fact, Gavin Newsom had a freak out on X. He had lots of these, but he actually mentioned me and Nick Shirley and Nick Sotor in a post saying we should go investigate the Trump phones, whatever that is. What the hell he's talking about. But yeah, whatever, bro. Happy to be like really. You don't understand what a compliment that is. Gavin Newsom doesn't understand much. Gavin Newsom doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman. That was proven yesterday. He also doesn't understand gas prices in his own state. Ladies and gentlemen, Gavin Newsom doesn't understand the concept of life. Of course, in California, they have the most liberal abortion laws in the country. Preborn is an organization that assists in fighting the barbaric and demonic abortion laws of California and other states. The Sanctity of Life Month, which we are in right now, we honor over 67 million babies whose lives have been tragically ended through abortion since Roe. Since Roe was overturned, many babies' lives are still at even greater risk as the left radicalizes on the abortion issue. You can see it reported that the abortion pill accounts for over 60% of all abortions, making this tragedy available 24/7. In the midst of darkness, there is light that shines. Preborn has helped rescue over 400,000 babies from abortion. These are entire generations. When you extrapolate them out, I mean, 67 million babies killed. That's a whole generation. That's a giant generation wiped out. This is a generation as big as the baby boomers. Gone. So help us fix that, ladies and gentlemen, by donating to Preborn today. For just $28, the cost of a dinner, you can sponsor an ultrasound to help introduce a mother to her baby for the first time. 100% of your donations go toward saving babies. Will you help us? Dial pound 250 today and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby to donate securely at preborn.com/Benny, preborn.com/Benny. Ladies and gentlemen, we're excited for what is to come. We're excited for the energy that we have leaving California, even though we are sort of redlining it right here. You know, plane took off at 10, landed at 6 a.m. Whew. Boy, got it about enough time to shower and get ready for the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we were able to roast Gavin Newsom because, well, he just set himself up. Here are the gas prices that we found in California. They were extremely expensive. We recorded multiple videos about how expensive the gas prices were. Here's one of them. Do you have the video?
Prime example of how California taxpayers are being ripped off every single day by their incompetent and greedy, fraudulent state government. The average price of gas in America right now is $2.70 per gallon. In 14 different states, there is gas below $2 a gallon right now in America. Yet in California, you still have $5 a gallon gasoline, $4 a gallon gasoline, a whole 2 times more expensive than the rest of the country. And what do Californians get for this exactly? Do they get better roads? Do they get better services? And look at this gas station right across the street. You have a broken down car. Over here, you have a homeless encampment right in the corner. You have potholes and filth and garbage and refuse everywhere. It's so sad. There's homeless people just standing, in every direction. There's a guy right there going through the garbage, going through the trash at the filling station. I mean, not to mention everything else wrong with this state and everything from the fires to the...
Okay, so we did these little videos, just to keep the heat up on Gavin. And dude, did that dumbass take the bait? It's crazy. Look at this from Gavin Newsom's little press account here, which we just clowned the entire time we were out there. Benny could have saved $1 per gallon driving down the road instead of picking notoriously overpriced Chevron. All this guy does is mislead. Just see the map right here, right down the road. So a couple things. This right down the road is a 25-minute drive. All right. We were stuck in traffic the entire time we were there. It was so obnoxious to go 2 miles. It's an hour of your life gone. But then 2, look at this screenshot. Yo, even if we accept what Gavin Newsom is saying here, which we don't, and we'll explain why in a second, there are multiple stations here with $4 plus gas, nearly $5 gas, $4.77, $4.89. He circles a $3.99 gas station. He didn't even circle the right gas station that we were at. You can see in the video I posted, I was at an Arco on Ash Avenue in Inglewood. I wasn't even at where Gavin Newsom claims I was posting that video from, because Gavin Newsom can't read. And that is precisely what we said in our responses to him. But also, dude, bro, you played yourself. This is not the gas station I was at, but you also show the gas is double the national average. The national average of gas around the country is about $2.70. What is the gas price where you live? Gavin has ratioed himself here. Let's go ahead and check in on this ratio for Gavin. Okay, 700 reposts, 4.5 thousand replies. That is a nuclear ratio. And then also he got community noted. The community note says the original post is an Arco station at the corner of Ash and Manchester Boulevard in Inglewood. This misrepresents that it is a Chevron station. Arco is not notoriously overpriced. It's one of the cheapest top-tier gas stations in California. Gavin Newsom on suicide watch, frankly, like from a digital media perspective, because he just got clowned the entire time we were out there. Gavin Newsom was trying to snipe at us, and we're just blowing up his spot. We ratioed him every single day, multiple times a day. Ratio, of course, is when our reply gets more engagement and comments than his original post or his attack on us. But also, what an honor to be attacked, like on a near hourly basis, by the guy who's going to be the 2028 Democrat nominee for president. You know, it's become so humiliating that Gavin actually, yesterday in a interview with Ben Shapiro, beclowned his own social media team and decided to virtually disavow them. And so it's fun living rent free in Gavin's head. Gavin had a meltdown, and boy, it was really, really great to be a part of it. Where are some of the other responses? Okay, here we go. Here's another response. Here are some of our other viral responses to Newsom, where X is working really not great for me today. Yeah, it's totally glitchy. Yeah, it's totally glitchy. Just pin him up on the wall. Just put him up on the wall like trophies. We're just freaking absolutely nuking Gavin. I don't think his press account is going to try and snipe at us for a very long time. They just got destroyed. Anyway, we're really happy to be a part of a system that is focusing on what's next, because Tim Walz isn't next. I like that Tim Walz's career is destroyed, but he's not the center of power. Tim Walz was already yesterday's lunch. Tim Walz was already garbage. I like it. This isn't a criticism of Nick Shirley. I'm a massive fan of Nick Shirley. You saw Nick Shirley on this show way before anybody knew Nick Shirley. But I want to focus on the center of power and what's coming next, and that exists in California. And so that is why we're going hard at Gavin Newsom. It's why you need to start asking questions, big questions, and exposing what his real record is. And, well, it's destroying California. You know, as soon as you leave the airport there in LAX, you have this iconic Randy's Donuts, and we tried to get a donut there, and we were effectively attacked by homeless people. We had to step over homeless drug users who were actively using drugs and like frothing at the mouth and spitting as we're trying to get our donuts. You remember, you know this place. It's been in a million movies. But you can see the drug addicts that are just sitting on the side of the road. And in the course of us filming, you can see them just sleeping on the sidewalk. In the course of us filming this, multiple drug addicts had to be shooed away. Man, it's complete and total death spiral. The other thing that we wanted to expose is our fellow Americans who had their lives destroyed by California in the Palisades. We went to the Palisades and we got up with Spencer Pratt, who I believe is going to be the next mayor of California. Spencer Pratt, obviously the famous reality star. We met him and his wife, Heidi Montag, and had a great chat and a really nice time. I did Spencer's podcast, and we had a lot to talk about. But the failures of Gavin Newsom and the leadership of this state is really where we targeted. And speaking of targeting, they were targeting independent journalists. You might remember that reservoir was empty that they were supposed to fill the hydrants with to fight the fire. Well, they have now stationed security around the reservoir, so you can no longer go up and see that it is still criminally empty. Luckily, we brought a drone, and let's go ahead and check in. Have they refilled the reservoir to make sure that all the homes don't burn down again? And I got to tell you, there's nothing more depressing than driving through the Palisades and seeing all of the homes that have been just torched to cinders and burnt to the ground, and it's been a year out, and there's no construction going on. Nothing has been rebuilt. Nothing has happened. Everything is stuck in regulatory red tape purgatory. Everything has been just burned to the ground and has been left for dead. These people have been left for dead. They have destroyed this place. And it looks just like this. It looks like this. This is what it looks like. This is it. This is the Palisades. They haven't done nothing. Now, this is right after the fire. Yeah, this is right after the fire. I mean, it's like technically still smoldering in this footage. But here you can, I actually sent a bunch of footage of what it looks like today as we were driving around. I sent that to our shorts chat. But anyway, the point is that they're still just like lots, and no one can rebuild. No one is getting any variances. No one is getting permission to rebuild. No one is getting permission to get back into their lives and get their homes back. It is so insulting on a personal level. It hits so close, literally, to home. To have your house burnt down by the incompetence of the state of California, and then to just be left for dead. This is one of the most beautiful places on earth, a perfect allegory to the leadership of California. They would rather rule over the ashes and still rule than to have to answer or create a functional civilization. You can see here, just nothing but lots wiped clean. This is it. This was filmed just a couple hours ago. Literally a couple hours ago, dude. Just, gosh, what a crazy neck-snapping ride. So anyway, this was something that we were going out to expose. You can see here as you drive, not a single house in sight, right? This should be all houses. But it looks like the Midwest, like there's just nothing. Not that there's nothing in the Midwest, but that's where I grew up, and you're used to seeing like giant empty fields. Not in California. Yeah. So there's just nothing. So we went out to expose that. Let me show you what we found when we flew a drone over the reservoir.
So we're up here in the Palisades. The entire place just burnt to cinders. And there's a we're here, of course, with Michael, who lost his house as well. And there's a famous reservoir. You can kind of see it right over our shoulders there. And you can't walk up to it. Yeah, right there. Can't walk up to it, but it was famously empty.
Can't walk up to it because the security is guarding it from people trying to see that it's empty.
Well, luckily we brought our drone. Let's go ahead and find out what's in the famous Palisades reservoir that was dry during the fire that burnt everyone's house down.
That is bone dry. There's nothing in there. There's not a drop of water in the reservoir. What is wrong with them? They want it to happen again.
After all of this, there's nothing in the reservoir.
Look at that. Completely bone dry. And we talked with multiple victims. They gave us tours of their dirt lots, told us about the regulatory hell that they are going through, the expenses now that are in the multi-millions that they are forced to bear because of the burden of the state of California that they have put on them, the penalization of having their homes burned to the ground. This is just, it is a perfect metaphor for the leadership and ruling class of California that hates its citizens. What is the purpose of a government? Why would we have any government at all? Why do we have any government? The government is there to serve the people, not the other way around. That's the purpose of this country. The government is there to ensure you live in a stable, safe, clean environment where your children are prioritized over a homeless, vagrant, or criminal, where the family unit is something that is held up high and protected. Your home is something that is secure and secured with force, deadly force, executed by the government to protect you. Your security is the number one priority. That is the sole purpose of a government, a godly government properly instituted. That is the only reason to have one. So there can be an organizing, centralizing force that wields the sword, as it says in Romans, for the terror of evil men on behalf of good men. In California, it's the opposite. People's homes are getting looted, burned down. The vagrants are being promoted over the family unit. I can't stop talking about this, but it's so true. Governments make a choice. Mothers and children and families cannot coexist with drug-using bums who are shitting themselves on the street. They don't coexist. They can't live together. Like one will thrive and the other will flee. And the government makes the choice. Which one? A government that chooses decline, or a government that has figured out how to profit off of the bum? That is what you have in California. The bum is a lot easier to please. The homeless person is a lot easier to please. You give them a needle, you give them a shot of alcohol, and they're good. You don't have to even worry about them for the whole rest of the day. And they'll just slowly die. They don't need anything from you. They don't care about the potholes being filled. They don't care about ambulance response times. You don't need to fund a fire department or a police department for the bum. So much easier to run a city of ashes, a city of bums, than a city of citizens that actually demand that you have a functional society, that the government does its job and does the hard work of creating a functional, stable, secure society, clean society. And a world that is constantly spiraling towards chaos and entropy. That is the righteous goal of government. And California has completely abandoned it. This is why it is unbelievably critical that we expose this, because it'll happen at scale to the rest of the country. You know, man, it really hurts seeing this up close, because you get to see the pain with people in the Palisades. You get to talk to some of the people that we did interviews with that have homeless encampments all around their house. They have children. They're fleeing. They're leaving. It is truly a warning to the rest of the nation. Do not export this model to the country. And that is what they're going to try and do in 2028. So we're trying to cut them off at the pass. We did this with Jasmine Crockett. We did this with AOC. Both of them are frauds. And now we're going to uncover the fraud in California. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Some of the resources that we have at this show were brought to you by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is a wonderful tool that we use in order to make sure our staff is rock solid at this program so that we can execute at scale. Ratio Gavin Newsom creates so much content and break the media ecosystem. This is something that is a tool that allows us to hire the best and the brightest. We just don't have a lot of free time at this show, quite frankly. So who has the time to look through the thousands of resumes that we get when we open up a job here? Well, luckily, ZipRecruiter does that for us. ZipRecruiter is incredible at matching technology that works fast to find top talent. They can find out right away how many job seekers are in your area for the role that you have open. And with ZipRecruiter's advanced resume database, can instantly unlock top candidates' contact information. ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring site in the world. Let ZipRecruiter help you find the best people for your roles. 4 out of 5 employees who post on ZipRecruiter get qualified candidates from the first day. See for yourself. Go to this exclusive address right now and try ZipRecruiter for free. ZipRecruiter.com/Benny. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Benny. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. A very smart hire for President Trump is Caroline Leavitt, who went full savage mode yesterday on a reporter who exposed himself after a single question. It was an excellent strategy by Caroline Leavitt. Let these people metaphorically hang themselves by asking a question in return, and the power is in the asking of the question. And so here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Our nuke of the day. I don't know. I think we need to take the cringe alert. We need to take the cringe alert and actually flip it around, right? And do the good nuke from the White House press dais. Here we go.
Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents generally, and earlier on, Secretary Noem spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 U.S. citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist. And it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised in your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest journalist.
What a nice, thank you. We'll work on the truth nuke. Yeah, truth nuke today. What a moron. If you're going to pantomime being a reporter, then at the very least, when Caroline Leavitt sets a perfect trap like she did there, at the very least, don't be so stupid as to vomit out your left-wing talking points, right? So she goes, why was Renee Good killed? Renee Good, who is, by the way, on camera, ramming an ICE agent, causing internal bleeding, nearly killing him. Were it not for his reflexes, he would be dead and under the tire of the car. Renee Good, who committed attempted murder of a federal officer and got shot in the process because federal officers have the right to defend themselves just like every American does. Renee Good is not a hero. Renee Good is somebody who behaved in a terroristic manner and tried to kill a federal law enforcement member. You can see it here. Thank God we have it from 7 different angles at least. Has anything backfired more on the left than their rabid demands for body cameras? So anyway, the reporter goes, this is an unjustified shooting, and the ICE agent murdered her. He just straight up blasts out. He can't help himself. That reporter, by the way, works for The Hill, far left-wing media outlet. He's also British or Scottish there. He's extreme, rabid left-winger. And here you go. There you can see it right here. By the way, the agent is hospitalized with internal bleeding because they were hit by the car. The point is that the reporter just walks right into it. If you're being smart as a journalist, you just say, hey, I'm just here to ask questions. I don't have an opinion. But he can't help himself. It's the incantation. He has to like scream it out. And then Caroline Leavitt goes to full scorched earth. I'm sure she slept great that night, knowing that that was one of the most fire responses in White House history. I did not sleep great last night. Klein and I flew through the night on a plane. I'm going to stop complaining about it because it's actually a privilege to work for you and to do this kind of work. But I got to tell you, when I get home, I do sleep on my Helix mattress. Navigating the cold season is critically important, making sure that the time that you're spending indoors, well, that you're spending getting great sleep. I did not get great sleep last night, but we're still making it happen, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a big problem for me, though, because, there's a lot of worries in the world and there's a lot of pressures in this industry. Sometimes I really do not get great sleep. This is why my Helix sleep mattress is a godsend. Klein told me he was able to take like a little cat nap. So was I. When it got home, you're able to try and reset for an hour. Anyway, the point is that even if that's all that you have, Helix Sleep is there for you as an award-winning mattress. It ships free. The delivery is seamless. And their Helix Sleep quiz will match you with a perfect mattress based on your personal preferences and sleep needs. Make buying a mattress easy today with the Happy Helix guarantee. Rest easy knowing that you will be able to return or exchange risk-free, customer-first experience, and you'll be completely satisfied with your mattress or your money back. 120-night sleep trial, limited lifetime warranty. Helix Sleep is the mattress for you. Start the new year with Helix Sleep. Go to helixsleep.com/Benny for 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/Benny for 27% off site-wide. Make sure that you enter our show name after checkout so that they know we sent you. helixsleep.com/Benny. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a spectacular guest lined up and ready to rock. Okay. I was seeing that too. I'm just noting that X is completely down. And a lot of good things happening. X is down, but the show is up. Sorry if you were watching on X. My producer telling me it's completely impossible, and the entire platform is down now. Yikes. Well, the Europeans must be happy about that. Representative Andy Ogles is a big-time friend of the show, is a great member of Congress from the state of Tennessee, a state that is run quite efficiently and well, unlike California. And we're proud to welcome him back to the show. Here we go. Congressman, happy Friday morning to you, and thank you for coming back to the program. It has been a wild one. I don't think I've ever seen a year start off this blazing.
Yeah.
I mean, been the longest couple of weeks of January in history. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned not sleeping well. I literally went on to check out Helix Sleep because I didn't sleep well either yesterday. Now, that being said, I spent about 4 hours in a skiff, the last couple of days. And like you said, there's a lot going on in the world. But thankfully, we have President Trump as our commander in chief and not the idiot that is Joe Biden. But, hey, that's just my opinion.
What were you in a skiff for? Yeah, let's fill us in.
So I'm chairman of the Homeland Cybersecurity Committee. Obviously, now with the emergence of AI, arguably one of the most important committees in Congress now. And, I get updated daily and sometimes several times a day on just the constant attacks that we are under. And so, like, we had a hearing this week talking about cyber and AI, and I said publicly in the committee that the war has already begun. We're in a cyber war with China. They are trying to supplant us. They literally attack us every single day. So yes, you have Russia. Yes, you have Russia's proxies like the Typhoon conglomerate. Yes, you have North Korea and Iran. But the one that keeps me up at night is China, because they are intentionally attacking us day in and day out. So whether it's Verizon, whether it's X, when I see those types of things occurring, my mind immediately goes to, was that China?
Well, this is why it's absolutely critical that we're able to take China's proxy state, Venezuela, and their dictator out, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And keep in mind, so Maduro, so under the Biden administration, there was a bounty on his head, and the left, complimented a lot of the president for that. And then, of course, when President Trump actually does something about it, opens a can of whoop ass, suddenly the left loses their mind because he's a man of action. But that also sent, one, it was about the drugs. It was about those who have been victims of crime because of the drug trafficking, because of the overdoses. But it also sent a clear message to Russia and China. The Monroe Doctrine is back. This is our hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere. And if you're taking actions here, whether it's in South and Central America or whether it's in Greenland, we are not playing games. America is back, and it is America first.
Yeah. Okay. So what happens next in Venezuela? Donald Trump getting the Nobel Peace Prize yesterday from a Venezuelan.
Right.
You are on all these committees. You are in SCIFs, and there's got to be some very interesting conversations being had right now about this.
Well, I mean, let's take a step back. Let's look at the operation, the things that we can talk about publicly. You had a very small force that went in country. They flew literally under the radar. So some of the most sophisticated Russian and Chinese equipment did not detect our presence. We got in, we landed under fire once they realized we were approaching. They never wavered. They went in with overwhelming force. They were against a force that was a multiplier times in size, 10, 15 fold. They snatched him. They were out. Suffered no casualties, and then here we are. And again, when you look at those capabilities, when Russia and China think they've got their little sphere there in Venezuela protected, and we go in like a ghost, it's they were stunned. And again, it sends a message. And this conversation about Greenland, why does that matter? One, oil, natural gas, diamonds, gold, rare earth minerals, but set that aside for a moment. Set that aside. When you look at the Greenland Sea, when you look at the Arctic Ocean, when you consider the fact that literally is our backyard, some might even argue our back porch, that if I'm going to send a nuke into the continental United States, I'm not going to do it from Europe. I'm going to do it from a submarine in the Arctic Ocean, which is literally just minutes away. And so we have to send a message to the rest of the world. Again, this is our hemisphere. And if you can't protect it, Denmark, then we are going to do it. And oh, by the way, who protects Central America? It's the United States. Who protects South America? The United States. Who protects Europe? The United States of America. And so when people talk about socialized healthcare, the reason why Europe can have socialized healthcare is because they don't spend 40% of their annual budget defending themselves, because they have us to do it. So they can talk all big and bold, but if we withdrew from Europe, they'd all be speaking Russian in about 2 minutes.
That's a fact. I mean, I don't understand why we didn't just keep Denmark. If you go study keep Greenland when Denmark was conquered by the Nazis in World War II, when we became the administrators of Greenland. We sent our naval vessels there. We effectively owned the island then. Denmark couldn't keep it then, right? They effectively surrendered the Nazis without a shot being fired, and they just give up Greenland. And so we became the stewards of Greenland then, proving, I think, pretty demonstrably that they can't control whatever little colonies they have left. It just makes perfect sense to me. So what are you hearing about this? I hear that the conversation in the White House is going well. They have now a working group. Are we actually going to buy Greenland?
Well, I think there are conversations going on about what that would look like, what would be the technical steps to have some sort to make Greenland, a protectorate or part of the United States. And look, there's some strategic. So if it became a protectorate of the United States, we would have a 200-mile boundary into the ocean. That's significant because it keeps China and Russia at bay. And look, I have the bill Make Greenland Great Again, which sets up a mechanism by which the president could purchase Greenland. But I've met with the Greenlanders. I'm not talking about the Danish folks who are in Greenland. I'm talking about the Greenlanders, and they want autonomy and they want a relationship with the United States of America. So they're going to have to pick a side. Keep in mind, Greenland is it's territorially large, but population-wise is very small. It only has 2 cities. You can't get between the two. There are no roads unless you have a snowmobile or dog sled or a helicopter. And so Denmark hasn't done a great job of building out and capitalizing on the resources that are in Greenland. we have the infrastructure, we have the private industry that could go in there and, quite frankly, make the Greenlanders a very wealthy people, not to mention our own national security, not to mention the Golden Dome, not to mention the strategic position. Keep in mind, the Earth is a globe. And so when you're getting to the top there, you're very close to essentially everywhere in that northern hemisphere.
So, yeah, here's the Make Greenland Great Again. We love this, Congressman. This is perfect. I mean, of course, Denmark has also committed some, what I would say, crimes against humanity in Greenland. When you go back and look at some of the eugenics programs that they would run there, they haven't been really great stewards of the island. Right. And the people on the island, I think, hate Denmark for good reason. So you think this is going to happen? You think?
I'm cautiously optimistic. And again, when you look at China's intent, they are the one nation that could, stake a claim or have the ability to stake a claim in the Arctic. They're the ones that we truly need to be concerned about. And I don't want to discount any of our adversaries, but Russia hasn't been able to beat Ukraine, and so I don't consider them the same type of threat that China is. And I don't discount Iran or North Korea and some of their capabilities. That being said, China is the existential threat. They're the ones that attack us every single day. They're the ones that have a navy that could stake a claim and a position into the Arctic. And so we have to, again, own the Western Hemisphere, make it clear, this is our sandbox, get the hell out.
Yeah, I mean, I find it just particularly ironic that you're having this conversation, which I completely agree with, Congressman. But then we can't even keep control of our own cities because there are federal forces that are getting attacked on a hour-by-hour basis in Minneapolis. They're getting their cars broken into by Somali pirates and getting rifles stolen, and they're stealing documents. It feels like we're trying to project all this power around the world. I love that. I like the American empire. I want to be part of an empire. I want to be a citizen of a superpower. I love that. But we have to be able to control our own home first, right? Before we project power outside. So what should be happening in Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, so, that's an interesting conversation in that, you have foreign policy and we have to have strength there, but you also have domestic policy, which includes security, but also the economy. So we can set aside that economic conversation for a moment, but it matters who leads. I mean, that was a slogan during my campaign when I first ran, is that, leadership matters. And so you look, the United States of America is the greatest global power. We have the greatest economy. We have the greatest wealth, and Biden squandered that. And so nothing changed fundamentally except for the leadership. And so when you look at Minnesota, it's about the leadership. So you've got a horrible governor. You've got a wackadoodle mayor. They're totally sold out to this leftist activist type of mentality. And we have the same type of problem in Nashville, where you have a great city. It's a tourism mecca. It's a Music City USA. It's, quite frankly, healthcare USA. And this guy came out and was doxing ICE agents. Now, obviously, I was outspoken. We called him to the mat. Judiciary and Homeland opened an investigation. And suddenly he went quiet. But that's why it matters who leads. And now the difference between Minneapolis is that they have Ilhan Omar, who arguably, there's some evidence saying that she may be complicit in some of this fraud. And so she's not calling it out. She's actually defending them. Whereas in Nashville, Tennessee, I said, oh, hell no, I'm not going to let Nashville become Minneapolis. I'm going to step in. I'm going to be bold, and we're going to hold those folks accountable. So again, getting back to this idea that it matters who leads, but that's also why election integrity is so important. When you have waste and or fraud and abuse of the election system in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, and you get these wackadoodles elected, I mean, the electorate is getting what they asked for. Now, hopefully what you see is in a Minneapolis, in a New York City. I mean, all right, I'm going to pause for a minute. 9/11. The city of 9/11 just elected Mamdani. The guy should be deported, first off. But that being said, I fear for what's going to happen in the city of New York over the next couple of years. Hopefully it can be fixed when he's done, because he is a complete idiot. I was going to say something else, but I just stopped. I caught myself. But again, they asked for it. They got it. And you know what? Let's let them unwrap that present. But look, to your point, we have to have law and order. I literally reached out to Stephen Miller last night and said we cannot let these protests get unhinged and out of control, because we cannot send the message that this is okay to a San Francisco. It's not okay in Chicago. It's not okay in any other blue city. We've got to shut this down. And look, I'm sorry that the woman was shot. But if you assault an officer, whether it's your hands, a club, a chair, or a car, you're going to get shot.
So should Trump invoke the Insurrection Act? Seems very insurrectory what they're doing.
I support that 100%. Enough is enough. They've had their opportunity. Again, people have the right to peacefully protest. So you go back in time when I was county executive, so the CEO of the county, and that was when all the defund, the Antifa, and the BLM stuff was at its peak. They came to my courthouse and they protested. Our courthouse here is historic. It has some ties to some of the civil rights riots. It has a history. So that being said, I went out onto the steps. I explained the ground rules. I told them you have a right to be here, but you have to do it peacefully. Otherwise, you're going to be arrested. You know what? They were there for a couple of hours. I actually went out there and stood with them. I gave them water. I made sure that they were safe because it was a hot day. And when they were done, they left, and that was it. But we set the ground rules. And I had the support of the sheriff, and I had the support of the district attorney. I had the support, quite frankly, if I needed it, of the governor of the National Guard. But we set the ground rules and we set the expectations. And that's the difference between Minnesota and Minneapolis. They're allowing this lawlessness. They're allowing these assaults. And quite frankly, if you're a victim of crime because of these types of riots and you're hurt or injured by these civilians, you know what? I think you should have a cause of action to be able to sue the governor.
I agree. I mean, I don't know how Tim Walz gets out of this without being in handcuffs. What about your favorite member of Congress, Ilhan Omar? Tim Burchett now has a petition out there. He's demanding her immigration records. Why is this so hard to actually get a fair shot on Ilhan Omar's immigration records? Like, shouldn't we know this now? Shouldn't we settle this issue?
Well, so I'm not, I don't know the status of where he's at with that request, but, Tim and I are great friends. He was a previously county executive in Knox County. I was a county executive here in Middle Tennessee. So we kind of have that brotherhood. We've had each other's backs on all these issues. And so, but that being said, he's hitting the nail on the head, right? Like, if you're here illegally, whether you're elected to mayor or you're elected to Congress and you lied on your naturalization form, there is a process. Obviously, it has to be handled by the DOJ, the Justice Department. But I've been an advocate. I sent a letter to Pam Bondi that Mamdani should go through the process. There should be an investigation and ultimately be naturalized and deported. And if that's the same facts are true with Ilhan, I think the same process could be invoked. Now, is there a statute of limitations? That's well beyond my area of expertise, but I would encourage and support Burchett in his investigation, 100%.
All right. The state of Tennessee holding strong. It's Representative Andy Ogles of Nashville. He's got you got one of those tough seats, Congressman, right, and we're rooting for you and support you. And you should follow the great congressman who is a fighter for freedom and also somebody who speaks a lot of uncomfortable truths. The left hates him. That means you should like him. Godspeed, Congressman.
Absolutely. Well, the left has got me on their top 5 hit list as far as seats. And so, but look, I've beaten all my opponents by double digits because I simply follow the facts and speak the truth. And you know what? People appreciate that. That's why Donald Trump won the popular vote, while we won the Electoral College. And obviously with your support and our allies, I'll win again. But thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Godspeed.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we were traveling through California, even in some really rough spots, we had Patriot Mobile with us every step of the way. We talk about them all the time because, well, it is a requirement at this company to have connection to you. This is why we do what we do. What most people don't realize is that Patriot Mobile isn't just a wireless provider. They're a Christian conservative organization that sells top-tier cell phone service. They've been on the front lines helping people defend freedom for a very long time. They're standing in the gaps when others would not, when other cell phone carriers, in fact, canceled the conservatives. And the best part is they deliver premium service on all 3 major networks, giving you the best coverage backed 100% by U.S. customer support. And so you should switch to Patriot Mobile today. Make sure that you align with companies that align with your values. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny or call 972-PATRIOT and use the promo code Benny for a free month of service. That's patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT and make the switch today. Okay, President Trump receiving the Nobel Peace Prize yesterday. He was given the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee sent a pointed message reiterating that the prize cannot be revoked, shared, or transferred. Who cares? Maria Corona Machado gave Donald Trump her Nobel Peace Prize yesterday. Machado is the leader of the Venezuela opposition party, and she told reporters on Capitol Hill on Tuesday afternoon that she's given Trump her medal, and she won it last year after her commitment to Venezuela and democracy. The Norwegian Nobel Committee, probably very butthurt over Trump grabbing up Greenland, posted a lengthy tweet noting that while prizes can be passed on after the winner's death, they cannot be gifted. A medal can change owners, but the title of Nobel Prize laureate cannot. Oh, okay. Machado didn't listen, recalling to reporters how medal commission for President George Washington was presented to the family of the French military officer Marquis de Lafayette, who had helped during the American Revolution. I present the United States the medal, the Nobel Peace Prize. The President of the United States, the medal, the Nobel Peace Prize, she said. And here's the photo of Donald Trump looking pretty happy, getting his Nobel Peace Prize. He's going to get it one way or another. Remember, they gave Obama one of these, and then he ended up drone striking a bunch of American teenagers just for fun, without due process or cause. Okay, cool. People who shouldn't get due process, whatever, they're going to get due process. But the scum of the earth, these two scammers, have pled guilty in Brooklyn. All right. Here's New York for you. Another fraud central to the world. $68 million Brooklyn adult daycare fraud scheme. Two Brooklyn scammers pled guilty on Thursday to defrauding a whopping $68 million from the state's controversial Medicaid home care program by paying healthcare kickbacks for services they didn't provide Big Apple businesses. Manuel Wasef and Elaine Antano, both 46, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, referring Medicaid recipients to two Brooklyn social adult daycares and a home health company in exchange for illegal kickbacks and bribes. U.S. Justice Department is cracking down now on fraud. There is so much fraud in these daycares and adult daycares, like a family social adult daycare. What even is an adult daycare exactly? It's like something they should have. Joe Biden in permanently. Ladies and gentlemen, we are glad to see some prosecutions here and need to get rolling on states like Minnesota and need to just really shut this kind of stuff down. And the way that you shut it down is just turn the money off. You just got to turn the money off to these things. It's what they're doing in Minneapolis. It's what they should do around the country. It's what we're going to help them do, I think, in California. The golden state of California, not so golden anymore, but you can have gold in your bank account with Advantage Gold. Make sure that you are locking in your future as precious metals hit new all-time highs. While the media melts down and while Americans are trying to figure out what these crazy market conditions are going to do. Is it going to crash? Is it going to boom? What's going on in the crypto market? Ladies and gentlemen, you could be sitting on precious metals right now and doing just great. In fact, again, you could be at all-time highs. Gold and silver. You've got a 401k, IRA, or any retirement account. This is a wake-up call. You can keep trusting a broken system, or you can own the assets that you have consistently won against Washington's losses. So right now, you should get started. Text Advantage Gold today. Benny to 85545 right now. That's BENNY to 85545. You'll instantly get your free gold investment kit. And, well, the gold rally keeps setting records. So do it today. Text Benny to 85545 now and profit from precious metals. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, today has been a labor of love. This entire trip has been a labor of love. We love this country. We love our children. We love the future for our children. And we want to preserve the future for our children. And the best way to do that is, quite frankly, to fight back. And that is what we are going to do. It's what we do on this show every single day. And sometimes we do it from we always do it from a spiritual and physical sense, because the battle is actually spiritual for us as well. Our verse of the day from Micah 6:8. You have been told, O mortal, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, only to do justice, to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God. Walk humbly with God today and into the weekend. And this, the greatest country on earth. It's Benny. We're marching with you on to victory. And in the end, remember, we win. See ya.
The biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest kings, and their dying legacy, media dilweeds. Soon will the Benny Show come to mind. The salt from lives for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun. We sail for number one. Show come to mind. The salt from lives for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun. We sail for number one. The biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest king.
And it was just like hustling.